can Republicans resist? There's so much that they want to talk about. They dislike so much about this presidency. Can they resist all of the other things that are passing them by to focus on this health law and its consequences for the American people? People who know or can surmise are Richard Fowler. He is the host of the aptly named Richard Fowler Show on We Act Radio, available coast to coast. Hi, Richard.
Hello.
Ford O'Connell is the author. Go ahead and hold it up now. He is the author of Hail Mary, which is not about football but uses a football analogy to talk about what Republicans ought to do and oughtn't to do. Former McCain-Palin presidential campaign advisor and the chairman of the Civic Forum PAC. Okay, gentlemen. So you know that the Republican leadership is worried about people taking their eye off the ball on Obamacare. What did John Cornyn say was a distraction? The Iran deal was a distraction. John Cornyn, like, don't even look at the Iran deal. Look at nothing. Just look at Obamacare. That's tough message discipline to keep for, what do we have?
11 months.
11 months. 11 months. It's sooner than you think.
I know.
Well, can they do it?
One candidate took this path of we're going to continue going for the president, going for the jugular, and the other candidate said we're going to talk about comprehensive policies, how we really turn the state around, how we fix all of our issues. And the candidate that was solution-oriented won, and that's Chris Christie. And also understand that in 2014, there's a lot of governors' mansions that are going to be up. We're going to talk about comprehensive solutions.
The answer to your question is the Republicans have to keep it on Obamacare, and they have to. And it's going to be very hard for 11 months, but they have to, because if they want to win 6 seats in the Senate, they're going to have to keep the car between the two white lines. They can't shut the government down. They can't default. Obamacare, because you want to know why? The vulnerable Senate Democrats, that 8-page thing that HHS put out, that was an 8-page litany of vague terms basically designed to keep a handful of vulnerable Senate Democrats from jumping off a cliff and committing suicide.
It was a little mushy on the inside.
Private sector velocity and effectiveness.
Private sector velocity.
I mean, unreal.
That was not ideal. But Richard, for Republicans, the question is, and as you say, people aren't going to it's not going to wash for Republicans to say, we told you so. If Republicans adopt something that's basically like, America deserves to have Obamacare fail because they voted for Obama, that won't wash. But there's big risk if you come up with a comprehensive. The Americans, by the way, now hate the term comprehensive. I think American voters have
as pork barreling in the American public.
That's where you hide the stuff that breaks and blows up on them. But there's a lot of risk if Republicans come out with a full replacement, right?
Okay. Or what we're going to do.
Chris, it's a very simple solution. Vote for me today, and I'll fix it tomorrow. The point is, anything that they put out there.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute, Ford O'Connell. Wait a minute. The Republicans have to be able to address. The next election is going to be about what's happening in the next 3 weeks, and it's going to happen through the course of the next year, which are people who are dispossessed of their insurance policies. That's going to be, the stuff about the website is the whatever stuff, but the stuff about people who are displaced from their insurance policies and what do they get on the other side?
What did Fred Upton try to do? Well, there you go. I mean, obviously,
his niece. What are you talking about?
All I'm saying is yes, you're going to have to put forth some solutions, but they're not. Harry Reid and company, they aren't going to accept it. And if we actually put forth an honest effort, they're going to tear it apart and they're going to cause infighting in the Republican Party. This is just like Reagan in 1980. Vote for me, and I bring home the hostages. Vote for us, put us back in power. We fix this mess.
All right, now, Richard, here's the thing. If I'm Harry Reid and I have these vulnerable Senate Democrats, I'm going to give them something. So at what point do you think we see a full-year repeal or a full-year delay of the individual mandate?
Where Harry Reid's mind is focused right now is getting this budget deal done, right? And I think that is where they're putting their eggs in that basket for a particular reason, because they understand that if the Senate can pass some sort of budget deal that can't get through the House of Representatives, we're back in the same situation we were in on October 1st, and we know that the House Republicans have a problem getting any type of budget deal through that will come from the United States Senate, which puts the ball back into the House's court.
Well, but I mean, he makes it. But if I may render this in more cynical terms than Richard would have, Democrats would, as we've talked about here, hope that government shutdown, that an impasse, that by focusing on the budget now and talking about these issues, that an impasse results in a shutdown that creates another pressure point for Republicans.
And that's exactly what I said earlier.
Well, no shutdown. No one's saying you're not. No one's saying you're not.
And the question is, when will Harry Reid throw Bygich, Pryor, Landrieu, Hagan a bone? Real simple. Right about June, if this perpetual dog with fleas doesn't hunt.
June is. You would think basically May and June is the pivotal moment for the cycle because the races have all firmed up. The filing periods are over. The first round of primaries have taken place. We know what the score is going to be, who is really running, and that makes sense, right? For the time that Democrats would move changes, right?
Well, and I think you're looking. I think Ford's looking at this in a vacuum, and he knows he's looking into it in a vacuum because you have a lot of Senate Republicans that even before we can get to a general election have to deal with a very, very tough primary. Mitch McConnell's one of those that deal with a tough primary, and he's just one of the many that have to deal with a tough primary.
You see this? Here's Obamacare. We're going to talk about
everything. And if they vote on a budget deal,
Richard makes a good point.
If they vote on a budget deal, they lose their primary.
Richard makes a good point that Mitch McConnell, and we read David Drucker, who was in the note this morning. David Drucker sits down with Mitch McConnell, who basically took off his shoe and hit Matt Bevin and Jim DeMint with it. That he's obviously he is not looking past his primary opponent. You see more evidence that he knows he's in for a fight. Lindsey Graham, at one of these points or another, is going to have to get real about his primary situation.
Let's try this. I agree with you. Some of them are going to have to worry about. Mitch McConnell's a separate animal, okay? Right. That's a Tea Party. We want a trophy on the wall. It's Mitch McConnell. The deal, though, is with Lindsey Graham, honestly, if any one of them wins, you think a Democrat's going to win in South Carolina?
Not the point.
No. That is the point. Well, that is the point.
But it creates pressure points.
But everybody in the Republican Party's voted against Obamacare. Everyone in the Republican Party
forces the Senate
voted for the Upton bill.
The Republican Senate caucus to shift to the right. If the Republican Senate caucus shifts to the right, we're in trouble. You guys are in trouble in 2016.
2016, we're in trouble anyway.
I'm going to take the Washington way out and say you're both right. And you are both right. You are both substantially right because in your case, whether the Democrats win a seat or not, if the disruption that occurs as Republicans try to get to that point. But Ford's also right, and I think this is quite consequential, which is that for Republicans, if they can. In Washington, especially in divided government, the answer is always the person who can prosper in the status quo, the person who can most endure the status quo is generally the person that wins. And after being in the dunking booth for a long time, Republicans now are in the position where all that is required of them is to do nothing, and they can politically advantage. And that's how Democrats did well in the past 6 months, and that's how
they don't even have to walk
stand.
and chew gum. All they got to do is chew gum,
or just not fall down from a seated position. But we shall see. But we know that you guys will be with us to help us do it.